Surprisingly enough, you can take on some projects yourself or have a contractor on site assist you with select jobs. I would only recommend this to individuals who have completed or who are comfortable with the lamination process and who have an understanding of basic construction practices. If you're not familiar, you may waste quite a bit of money and frustration attempting to nail your execution. Now, this is very generic advice, so please feel free to reach out to me on my website or at my email for more detailed information, but straight tops shorter than 6 feet with a single finished square edge or wall panels can be made from zinc sheets purchased online. To start, supply a decent substrate, 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch plywood for wall panels, 1.5 inches for countertops or bar tops, and if gluing up 2 pieces of 3/4 inch for the 1.5 inch substrate, give plenty of time for the assembly to dry. Screw every 8 to 12 inches, staying back from the edges about 1 inch in case you need to trim away after dry fitting. Also, place any cup and surface irregularity to the inside of your substrate if possible. Dry fit that substrate on site to make sure it fits. If you're making a top for a typical dry bar 3-walled installation, so trim only on the front edge, make sure you scribe the edges to fit, as drywall mud usually packs out the 2 inside corners at the back. You can also make a template out of a rigid material like ram board and transfer this pattern to your substrate. Leave about 1/8 inch of play total so that you have room to work. Also, think about how you're going to install the top and make sure that you don't have to rotate it into place, scratching your wall. Once you have a substrate that fits, work your metal with either a metal brake or a mallet for any right-angled breaks. As you're going to be using a workflow exactly like laminate, you should leave a little extra on the edges, maybe 1/4 inch total, to allow for play as you register the sheet over the substrate before bonding. Using standard contact cement, coat both the contact side of the zinc and the substrate plywood and let it dry per the manufacturer's recommendations, usually about 30 minutes. Sometimes I rough up the underside of the zinc with some 40 grit sandpaper and a pad sander for extra bond, but if you do this, make sure you clean it really well before you apply the cement. Moving from the center of the sheet and working out, carefully bond the 2 surfaces together. Careful, because this is a one-shot deal. Ensure that if you do run over this with a roller, which is not really necessary, you don't dent or score the metal. I recommend another sheet of plywood on top and some weight, or if you have access to a nice vac bag setup, that bond can be completed this way. Use a straight router bit with a top bearing. Carefully trim the excess from the back side. By this I mean let your router base plate ride on the back of your substrate so that it doesn't scratch your finished zinc material from the front. A standard big box store router bit will work. You don't need anything fancy for a small project. If you do use a bottom bearing, make sure that you carefully protect the top surface of the zinc. You can carefully file the routed sides or brush over them with some 80 grit on a pad sander. Finish and you're good to go. Secure your project mechanically with screws from behind or below and caulk around the perimeter with a gray silicone or another color of your choosing. Any project larger than this, and I would suggest reaching out to me for some guidance. You do not want to be attempting multiple soldered complex corners and geometries, and often I can offer a solution more seamlessly than you trying to master a technique on site. So wall panels and short, single square edge counters can be made into successful DIY projects, but you should consult a professional for anything larger than this.